So this is a speaker meeting. Our speaker will share his experience, strength, and hope for approximately 45 minutes. We ask out of respect for our speaker to please remain seated until he is finished. It is my pleasure to introduce Joe.
Hello, my name is Joe, and I'm a grateful alcoholic. Hello. Great turnout tonight. This is really awesome. Glad to be here. Fortunate to be sponsored by that man over there who picked up the 32 years. He's really had the ability to, I guess, enrich my understanding of the print, as he would call it, the text. And whenever something's going on, bringing me back to the solution, bringing me back to the print. Because my alcoholic mind has the ability to catastrophize a lot of situations that aren't even crazy or out of the norm. It's just something that happens whenever I'm living in fear or whatever. But yeah, I'm grateful for that. So yeah, I guess we'll start with why I'm here. I'm a raging alcoholic, and that has continued ever since getting sober. My sobriety date is February 13th, 2015. I'm coming up on 6 years of sobriety if I don't mess it up, as Mike B would say, because I don't take that for granted. I don't get to stop doing what we're doing here. I don't get to stop living by spiritual principles just because I got a little time sober. It continues. It starts when I wake up in the morning. It starts with steps 1, 2, and 3. It starts with getting connected. Every day that I wake up, there's a voice in my head that tries to keep me away from living by principles, getting connected with something greater than myself, my conception of God. It's funny, but today, Paulie called me. He asked me to speak, and my first thought was no. No. This whole COVID thing has really done a deal on what the social norm is, for interacting with people. There's kind of like, for an alcoholic of my variety, it's like the kingdom, because everyone kind of wants to stay away from each other. So my alcoholism will feed off of that, and you get comfortable, and the interaction isn't there like it once was. I mean, it's still there, but so anyway, yeah. I actually told him I would call him back, and I waited 20 minutes, and I fought with my alcoholism, battled back and forth, and the excuse was I start a new job tomorrow. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I have to get prepared for work tomorrow at 9 a.m. That's the real truth. That's what I'm dealing with. That is my alcoholism. It's like it's going to try to do everything it can, find every excuse to keep me away from the solution, for me showing up here tonight, maybe to help somebody else, to carry the message. Because the reality is, this isn't about me. This is my story, and this is my experience. It doesn't have to be yours, but maybe someone can get something from it. I was born and raised in New Berlin, Wisconsin, a little suburb outside of Milwaukee. My childhood, was nothing extreme. I had 2 loving parents. My mom's a nurse. My dad owned hockey stores. He was entrepreneur. He was good at a trade. I looked up to my dad a lot, and I stuck with him throughout my childhood. I really wanted to be close to him, and he was kind of my ideal. We have this term, when we're going through the 4-step, our sex ideal. And at a young age, my dad was my sex ideal, and I wanted to do everything that he did. My family was kind of oriented with a drinking culture, which is not out of the norm for Wisconsin. It's what a lot of people do. So for me, that was just a normal thing growing up, seeing, those kind of parties, having my birthday parties at my parents' friend's bar, eating fried chicken and other kids being there, and just kind of seeing that growing up. So it was kind of a good introductory stage for my alcoholism to take place, to take hold. It's not why I'm an alcoholic, it's just part of my story. I think back to that time, and I think about my first relief, my first aha moment, the one that got me, and it was stealing a cigarette from my uncle during hunting season, and it was a Marlboro Light, and my dad and my uncle were sleeping. He left his pack of cigarettes out with the top open with one sticking out, and I stole that cigarette, and I went outside. I went behind the shed, and I smoked it, and it was, and that was at about like 9, and I didn't get caught. At least I didn't think I got caught. I probably reeked like cigarettes, so they probably knew. But I really think like that plays into my life moving forward, not knowing what was coming. But that's how I treated a lot of things. Always sliding by under the radar, trying to get away with stuff, stealing, and looking for a feeling. I was always chasing the buzz. It's really what came first in my life. No matter what, there was really no option. Like, I think about what everyone was like in middle school and how they socialized, how they interacted with each other, and how they were able to laugh and just kind of be like free, be themselves. And I always felt out of place. I didn't feel normal. I didn't feel like them. I had a lot of trouble talking to girls. I had a lot of trouble talking to my friends. But the one thing that always made me be able to interact and be able to show up and be free and be myself as a kid was the alcohol. I got introduced to it at a really young age, and I really liked the way that it made me feel. Like it says in the doctor's opinion, talks about we drink because the effects that are produced by alcohol, we like the way it makes us feel. I loved the way it made me feel. And I got away with that. I got away with that like behavior because it was acceptable. No right or wrong. It's just the way my dad parented. But it was kind of like, pat me on the back as a son, and you're gonna take a shot of Jägermeister, and that's okay. That's a-okay. We're in hunting camp. It's okay to sit at the bar with your dad and drink a glass of beer. So it was kind of like, all right, I get to feel like this and hang out with pops, and yeah, and that's the way it went until things like started to become a little bit more risky, unmanageable, and I wasn't able to control it because I wanted to do it all the time. It didn't matter what job I had. It didn't matter what family function was going on. It didn't matter who I was dating. It didn't matter what my friends said. It was just, it's all that mattered to me. And without even knowing it, I developed this marriage with alcohol first, and then substances came in later to enhance the effects that I was feeling. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, it was just this progression, like we talk about, the way my alcoholism progressed seemed to be pretty quickly, and I got away with a lot of stuff. So I never had these like real harsh consequences until I was about 24 years old. So I made it all this time getting to do what I wanted to do without any real sort of consequences, besides maybe from like my mom, which was really nothing. It's just like, stop doing what you're doing. And at a certain point, I couldn't stop doing what I was doing. It just wasn't an option. You can't just walk away from the drink. How am I supposed to just stop doing this? I can't. It's just not an option. I don't care what the consequences are. I will find a way. I will find a way to get well. I will find a way to quiet this up here. Quiet it from what? What is so wrong in my life today that I need to quiet my mind? I don't know, maybe it has something to do with my alcoholism, but I didn't know that. I didn't know that was going on with me. I didn't know I had a spiritual sickness that stemmed from resentment. I didn't know that was a thing. I was just mad at you, and I didn't know I was mad at me. I didn't know I was mad at God. I kind of forgot about him because I was able to drown that out. The hole in my soul was filled by the drugs and the alcohol for some time. My mind was quieter. I felt comfortable in my skin. What I'm describing basically is just like what it felt like to drink and what it did for me. And the inability to stop was because of the obsession of the mind. It was because of the phenomenon of craving. It's something I can't describe. It's just like, I'm not stopping until I'm blacked out. You know? Wake up the next day. I don't know if you guys ever experienced this. I'm sure you have. I'm not going to do that again. You're sick. You just feel like you're dying at the end. I'm not going to do this again. Next thing you know, I'm picking up a drink again. I'm at the bar at 6 a.m. with the third shifters. What am I doing? I'm 22 years old and I'm at the bar with all these people who've probably been sitting there for as long as I've been alive. I'm thinking it's normal. I mean, that's kind of the insight to what my life looked like. I tried to show up the best that I could. I was never good with my money, so I couldn't stay well long. I always ran out, and I always had to do things to make money. I always had to come up on a scheme. I was hanging out with people that I said I would never hang out with. Any time that I've ever said never, I have done the never. I'm never going to be that guy. It's never going to get that bad. That's not going to be me. I'm different than that. I'm the drunk in the gutter judging somebody who's got a pretty well put together life with a family, a nice car, and a house. I am judging you from the gutter. There is something different, and I'm going to make a point of it. That's the way my mind works upstairs. And yeah, so I mean, like I go on through high school, and I'm really trying to fit in, man. I've created this whole exterior shell of who I am as an individual, and it has everything to do with the way I think you want me to look and the way I think you want me to be and the things I think you want me to do. No one ever told me any of this stuff. I just made it all up. It's all in my head. I'm making all this stuff up and I'm going with it. And I want nothing. My truth is I want nothing to do with the man that I had become, even in high school. I prided myself on being a fighter. That's the way I protected myself. It was all fear. But I knew that if I struck first, and I won, and I took care of whatever confrontation was going on, that I wouldn't have to deal with it. And then you would fear me. And then no one would ever be able to get past what was actually going on. I was able to keep everybody away. And then I put on another mask at home. And I played the good son. I tried to until I wasn't able to hide it anymore. And I'm doing a bunch of stuff that you can't run from. But I did it for a while, and it sucked. The feeling on the inside of trying to keep up all these masks and not be truthful and lie and lie and lie and lie. I'm I'm one person over here on the hockey team. I'm this good boy hockey player on the team, and I'm all about it. And truthfully, it's like, no, I'm doing all this devious stuff behind the scenes. I'm getting kids in trouble. You know, in high school, I play the good kid too, to the teacher's face, and I point the finger at all the scapegoating all these people. That's me. That's my alcoholism. I don't take the rap for anything. I lie to get out of it, so I can keep drinking, so I can keep using, so I stay out of trouble. I stay protected. It's all about Joe, and that goes on, man. And I didn't really. I started to have some troubles with prescription pills, and that took a toll. You know, I found out a lot about what that was like and how I had to maintain that habit as well as my drinking. And I love when the two marinated. I love taking a drink, and I loved marinating the two. And I did that for a long time. The drink was always by my side. It was always my go-to. You know, after high school, it was like my mom was like, "You got to do something." Yeah, you know, I took a year off, and she's like, "You got to do something," and I'm like, "What am I supposed to do?" Like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm working a job, and you know, basically, it was just keeping her off my back is really my whole goal. But at 19, I was like, "All right, I'm out of here," and yeah, and I moved on, and I moved in with my dad, and I really got to step up the level on the amount that I drank because him and I worked at a bar together. Yeah. So that was pretty sweet. It was like all day long, whatever I wanted, and I lived that lifestyle, and I tried to hold a face. I became a massage therapist somehow. I mean, I was a 2-pack-a-day cigarette smoker. So like imagine, and reeking like booze and just raccoon eyes from opiates, whatever. I don't even know how they hired me, but it happened. And so I'm juggling all this stuff, and I'm, you know, trying to keep my face and show up for all these things. And it's so exhausting, man. I'm like, at the bar, it's not really a big deal because you kind of get to be free. You know, as an alcoholic, you're in your sandbox. You're pretty free. I mean, you know, I'm getting to socialize and feeling good and all that stuff, but that didn't last too long either. And I'm getting really tired of trying to do all this, you know, and I'm causing a lot of harm to my dad. God, all he wanted to do was just be my dad, and I think in a sense he really he wanted to bond. He didn't know I was an alcoholic. I'm sure he had some idea after living with me that I didn't drink normally or I was doing some shady stuff. At the end, he definitely did, but I took advantage of him big time. I mean, he just wanted time. He just wanted my time. He just wanted to spend time with me, and I couldn't give it to him. The time that I had with him then was mostly a lie. I wanted to love him, and I couldn't. I wanted to be his son, and I just wasn't able to because I had prior obligations. My prior obligation was always the drink and was always the drugs. You know, it's... and I'll get to it a little bit later, but today I don't have to feel bad for it because of this program. I'm just explaining to you what my alcoholism looked like and what it did to my relationships. Shoot, Greg, I was trying to think of that 12 and 12, faulty relationships and 12 and 12, but that's okay. So yeah, I really distanced from a lot of my family. I only showed up at certain events, and I was a mess. I was a hot mess. I looked back at some pictures not too long ago. I usually do at this time of year because my sobriety date's coming up, and what it looked like when I got sober, right around this time, December, around Christmas time, whew. It's one sick man. I looked like a dying patient in the hospital. Just nothing left. Soul ripped out, sickened 25-year-old man. And I wasn't a man. My actions were not of a man. They were of a boy, because I didn't know how to be a man. I didn't know how to show up for life. I didn't know how to be responsible. I didn't know how to care or love for myself, let alone anybody else. It just, the extreme of my alcoholism robbed me from all that stuff. And I missed out on a lot. I don't regret it today. It's a huge part of my story, and I didn't have anything left when I got here. I didn't have a party out there. I didn't have to go try something. I wasn't missing anything. I'm still not missing anything today. I'm very, 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 very grateful for that, because I didn't have this little tapping to well, you didn't try this. You didn't try this one, No, I did, actually. That's the rational thought that comes in. No, I did try that. So that's been, as far as having a first step, that really has resonated with me since the day that I got sober. When I got here, steps 1, 2, and 3 were already done. I did them before I came in the door, and I didn't even know it. I wasn't praying to a God. It talks about, turning our will and our life over to the care of God. There was already a God watching out for me. There was already a power greater than myself that was, guiding me along. All I had to do was surrender. All I had to do was honestly and wholly surrender and want and be willing to do something different. I think that's the key. It's I knew I needed something else in my life. I knew I was on a path of destruction. I knew I was going to die. I knew I needed something, and I really wanted a change in my life. But what changed for me on February 12th, 2015, was that I was willing. It's okay, all right, God, or not God, but all right, something, right? Put your hands up, you look in the mirror, and you can't stand to look at yourself, and you're just show me, help, please. That's where I was at. When I came out to Prescott, I got sober out here, and I did 6 months at a sober living facility, and I remember sitting in that first meeting, man, and there was a speaker, just like I'm doing right now, and she was sharing her story, and I was shaking in my chair. And everyone was dragging me along, and come on, it's gonna be all right, just stick with us, basically, and listen up and see if you hear anything that resonates with you. And, I did. I mean, there was just enough open-mindedness, and there was just enough willingness, and there was just enough honesty in me to be able to sit in that chair that night and actually believe. It's holy cow. God's timing is never wrong. It always happens exactly when it's supposed to. The person that was speaking that night happened to be from the same area that I was from. It's was that a mistake? I don't think so. I wasn't thinking about God then. I was just please don't I just feel I don't want to die. I had a little bit of fight in me. I want to live. And that's all that was really going on. Show me how to not go back to the way I was living before. And that's what happened. I got plugged in. Everyone showed me, they extended the hand, like we talk about, to the newcomer. They weren't thinking about themselves. The people that I was placed around, a lot of them weren't thinking about themselves when they were talking to me. and it's something I hadn't experienced before, and it's really what kept me moving, and it's a principle that I picked up early on. It's like, if you wanna keep this thing, you got to give it away. You know, because that's the thing. My alcoholism is like, I don't have to try to think about myself. I just do. Like, most of my thoughts are self-consumed. So I have to put work in to not think about myself. I have to do the uncomfortable work. And after getting here and learning about the steps and learning about meetings slowly and starting to kind of pick up on stuff, I realized that there was some work that I had to do, a lot of it. But I didn't have to do it all at once. If you're new, you don't have to do it all at once. Keep coming to these rooms and showing up with people who are doing the deal. Include yourself. Make yourself uncomfortable. And do the opposite of what that self-talking mind is telling you to do, which, if you're like me, is to walk out the door, to not be here, to stay comfortable in your shell, because that's where my alcoholism wants me, comfortable in my shell, walled off from all of you. A big part of my recovery today is stepping outside of that comfort zone. And like walking through the steps and continuing to do that today is uncomfortable still. I have to like consciously like put the work in on a daily basis, or I slide backwards, and then the crazy mind starts going off again. You know, I learned that working through the resentments and getting through the fear list, for me, gave me a huge sense of relief. I was able to sit down with another alcoholic and share my whole story and not be judged. I thought, you know how uncomfortable that was for me? There's a lot of stuff that I didn't want to share. We talk about it in the 5th step, but there's like a graveyard list. But I was told that from early on that if that's stuff you're not willing to talk about, you might have another drink in you. It's not something I was willing to go back to. God placed a good man in my life that had a similar story that made my story not seem so extravagant or so crazy. He was able to downplay the things that I thought were out of this world and that I couldn't share. And he did it first by sharing his story, his graveyard list. So step 6 and 7 is something that I'm still working on them. The defects are there, you know. I just wholly try to give up myself to God and bring him into all situations. I try to be ready to have these defects removed. Whatever God thinks I'm ready to have removed. I've learned over the last couple of years that the God of my understanding does things in my life in like 6 months increments. So whether it's like shedding a layer of something I've been unwilling to take a look at, or just a big change. There's a pattern. It like happens in 6 month intervals, and it's like, okay, like what's coming next? And I really can't call it. But I'm never ready for it either. But that's where that's where like the prayer and meditation comes in, and practicing step 12 and trying to have this conscious contact with God and continuing to seek. I didn't come in with a big God conscious. It's something that's grown over the last 6 years in this program. It comes through action. It comes through getting uncomfortable. It comes through living life on life's terms. And when I think something is not going to work out, but I'm bringing God into it and trusting God's way or God's path, and I go with that, my God conscious grows, my trust grows. And that's something that just like, it continuously happens, you know? I mean, Joe's plan is very evident that it doesn't work out, right? I've tried that, I've ran it, I've done it all. I don't need the drugs and the alcohol to do the convincing anymore. That's already been done. I haven't had to go try it again yet. So I'm just going to stay on the path that I'm going. I talked about, we're on steps 8. We'll just go 8 and 9. I talked about my dad a little bit. And I think for me, the way that whole thing played out, I got to make amends to him for all the harm that I caused, and did it to the best of my ability. And I'm really, that was an experience, because the first time I sat down with him and made amends to him, I lied. So I had to, on the same trip that I went back, it's my first time home in like 5 months, I had to go back to him and like re-amend the amends. I mean, right? We read, progress, not perfection in the beginning of the meeting, and it's like, I mean, I'm so glad it's not, this isn't a perfection thing, because that's not my story. It's not my experience in sobriety. But later on, my dad, he passed away at it's been 3 years already. And when he passed, I didn't have a single guilty feeling or a notion in my body. I didn't have any regrets. I got to build a relationship with my dad in 3 years in sobriety. And it was from 1,900 miles away. It was from that initial amends. It was from the into action. It was from putting in the work in. It was from taking suggestions. It was from doing, the contrary action of what my head said, because that's scary stuff. I remember getting lined up to do that, kind of like going back and meeting people face to face, and especially my dad. And man, like, I'm grateful for this program for that, because like I would have never done that on my own. For the sponsors in the program that have done it too, and it's like share their experience. It's like I got to sit at his bedside in the hospital, talking to him, and he wasn't conscious. You know how cool that is? And at the time, my daughter was 5 months old. She had it's my first kid. She's 3 now, but like, she had this bronchial cold at the time, and I'm like flying on a plane. I'm like rushing to get back home because he like went into the ICU, and from the outside looking in, man, it would seem like things are like chaotic, like, oh my God. But everything lined up perfectly. I got on the flight, no problems. My daughter slept the whole entire flight, almost 4 hours. She was sick. I don't know how that happened, but it did, right? I get there, I land, it lines up perfectly, and I make it there before my dad passes, and I get to say my piece. And the last time that I talked to my dad was ending a phone call with "I love you." I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And it was wholehearted, and it was felt, And I'm talking about that because, I mean, the date's coming up. It's on the 28th, I think, is when he passed. So just throwing him a little shout out. I know he's with me and he hears me. So that's the cool part, man. We get to not have a specific God. We get to not have a specific conception of a higher power of what God is. And I think that was so important for me, because when I came into the rooms, I was pretty blocked off, and I had an old idea, an old belief of like what God was. And through experiences in this program, and through experiences in life, and through experiences with my alcoholism, and I've gotten to build that relationship and that idea of what God is today. Because this program, working with other alcoholics, and having that conscious contact today is what fills the hole in my soul. Way better than the drugs and alcohol did. And when I came here, I never thought that was a thing. I didn't think you could replace what alcohol gave me. I didn't think you could have that feeling that alcohol gives you. But you can, and it lasts longer. It's like this this like infinite thing like the book talks about. We're not talking about the finites, right? Because we all have those struggles, you know, it's the money and the image and all that fun stuff that we like to fill and treat our alcoholism with. But today I know what this infinite power can do. Because mainly, I don't notice it in myself first, but I notice it in you guys. I see the miracle happen in you guys. I get to watch that happen on a daily basis if I want to. I get to talk to other alcoholics and hear about what's going on in their life and hear the miracles that are going on in their lives and how they're recovering, how the insanity in the brain is not there anymore, or how it is there, right? But then I get to remind another alcoholic of how they were sane, that the insanity isn't real, that it's just all a delusion. As an alcoholic, I still today live in this grand illusion a lot, right? Of what life's supposed to look like and what I need to be okay. That's what a lot of my life is. It's like what I think I need to be okay, right? Get a new job and I'm already thinking about getting a raise. I mean, it's like I haven't even started yet. I start tomorrow. God, I should ask for more money. It's like, man, it's there. It's, you know, I'm not going to say that it's real. There's a term that my close friends and I use, but it's taking the bait. When it becomes real is when I start to take the bait. The lies that are being told in my head, and when I start to believe them, and when I start to get the restlessness, the irritability, and the discontent because of the lies I'm believing in my head, it's because I'm taking the bait. A lot of times I need to pick up the phone, I need to talk to another alcoholic, or I need to get outside of myself to smash the delusion. Because if I take the bait for long enough, I know myself as an alcoholic, I will end up with a drink in my hand again. Because it's never, before I got sober, it never failed. I always ended up with a drink in my hand. I couldn't not pick up a drink again. I could stop for a while. So I have to continue to do this stuff. You know, if I back down and I get caught up in myself, and which I have, it's easy for me at times to start to try to arrange again, right? Because when I was drinking and using, what was I trying to do? I was trying to arrange my life to suit myself, like the big book talks about, okay? I was trying to organize and have everything set up so I could do what I want to do. I could get the things that I want to get, and I could stay okay. I could be okay. I need these things to be okay. And today I get to let all that go. But if not, I'm going to be doing the same exact stuff. I'm going to be trying to arrange it, man. I've kind of gone through some of that recently too, with job stuff and taking promotions, not taking promotions, all things that I thought I would never, you know, offers that I would never get. And you know, this whole time, God's showing me these signs. Like, it's like things are happening in my life to keep me out of the job that I was at. I get offered two different jobs in the same company, and I'm sitting there and I'm freaking out. I literally cannot make a decision. Do I go with this one? Do I go with this one? And I'm running all these different scenarios, and I'm talking about like a couple weeks on end. And I'm really struggling, and all this stuff is starting to bleed into my life. In my relationships with people, and my fiance at home, and my daughter, and I'm short-tempered, and I'm angered, and I am just telling you, I am talking to God here. I'm praying about this. Just show me what to do. And really, the answer wasn't coming, and I'm getting pissed. I'm like, I don't know what to do here. You want to know the one? I just had the realization on the way here. The one thing that I didn't realize is, if you're unsure about something, I think God's answer for you is just not right now. I missed it. I was trying to force something that didn't need to be. I was playing out all these different scenarios, and I was trying to set the stage so that I could get ahead, because I think it's what I need. The other part to that story is the way that God ended up showing me that I didn't need to be at that facility anymore, or I didn't need to take those positions, was I ended up getting hit in the head with a rock and getting staples in my head. And after that, I have a hard head, and I struggle to pay attention to God's signs and what he wants me to do. And I had like this realization, this epiphany after it happened, and I got some really good direction and where I'm supposed to be going, and I let it go, and I made a decision, and you know, another opportunity just so happened to like come my way with little to no effort. That's when you know something greater is working in your life. I didn't have anything to do with it. It just happened. And it seems like it can't be real, but it's true. That's what it felt like early in sobriety. That's what it's felt like a lot in my sobriety when I get out of my own way. Is kind of being free of mind, and it's effortless. When I can let go and when I can let God, I mean, there's things just line up. But I need to be okay with my circumstances. I need to be okay with where I'm at today. I have things going on that I never thought would be. I'm working in a profession with kids, of all things, which I never thought I would do. I work with 12 to 17-year-old girls at like an adolescent facility. That's where my new job just got landed. Obviously, God thinks I'm ready and able for that, and I believe it. So I'm excited for that opportunity, and I have a beautiful family, you know, that I get to show up in on a regular basis and struggle a lot, but for the most part, it's pretty awesome stuff. All things that I was not thinking when I got sober. I was not thinking about having any of this stuff in my life. It wasn't even close, right? But as time goes on, the more and more I stick around, the more and more I continue to plug back in, stay plugged in, remove myself, kind of fall and isolate and come back in, the bigger life gets. When I'm in the middle of this, when I am here in Alcoholics Anonymous, outside and practicing these principles, nothing is impossible. Literally nothing. Right when I think everything's falling apart is actually when it's coming together. Time and time again. Because there's been a lot of times where I've doubted what's going on in my life. But I've had someone by my side to guide me in the right direction. And I think that's the way that God works today. He works through other people. You know, if you don't have that connection, start there. Start in the room. Start with the person that you're closest to. Start with your sponsor. You know, seek advice, work the steps, get through them, and continue to do them. Is really what it's about, you know? So, that's what I got. That's what I'm going to close with.
Thanks, Joe. Let's thank Joe one more time.